Today's lesson is how to charge an air conditioning system in a car. This is a 98 Chevy Prism that's being charged up. The air compressor has been replaced, so before Freon's being inside the system, the whole system has to be vacuumed out before Freon's added in. So in order to do that, we have to have a pump and a gauge, air conditioning gauges, which is for R134. The first step is hook up this yellow hose from the gauge onto the vacuum pump. Next, it's these two fittings right here from the gauges that hook up onto the car, onto the air conditioning system of the car. The red is the high side, the blue is the low side. These fittings cannot be crossed due to the reason one hole is bigger than the other. The low side has a smaller hole, smaller fitting, and the high side has a bigger fitting. So now the next step would be hook up the gauges onto the car air conditioning system. Low side and the high side. Right now on the low side, blue's for low side, red is for high side. Once the pump's turned on, this gauge right here on the low side is going to drop down to -30. And it should stay at -30 for the 30 minutes while it's being vacuumed out. Once we're done vacuuming out the system, the next step is to see if this gauge holds the pressure to -30. If it does, that means there's no leaks. If it starts rising, then there's a leak somewhere in the system. Now, before turning on the vacuum pump, always make sure that all the hoses are correctly installed. Once installed and once I turn this pump on, the system's going to be vacuumed out for 30 minutes before Freon's shot into the system. As soon as the pump is turned on, the gauge will start dropping and go down -30. It takes maybe about a minute or two. Now it's been 30 minutes since the system's been vacuuming, so now we're ready to charge the system. So now the yellow hose from the gauge will be disconnected from the pump, and it will be connected to the first can of Freon. Anytime the air conditioning system is charged, it always has to be charged from the low side, never charged from the high side. So with the hose connected to the can of Freon, we open up the valve, and only on the low side, we turn the valve on to charge the system up. Now the next step will be start the engine, turn the air conditioner on maximum, As the Freon is added into the system, the high side gauge will start rising. Normal readings on the high side will be about 225 to 250, low side between 28 and 35. With readings this good, the air coming out of the vents should be very cold, between 38 to 45 degrees. With the readings on the gauge, the air coming out of this vents is very cold. The next step would be turn off the engine, disconnect all the gauges, and check for leaks. It is always best to wait about a minute or two after shutting the engine off before disconnecting the fittings from the gauges. The reason for that is because the system's still under pressure. So only once the pressures went down, after a minute or two, then the hoses can be disconnected. First the low side, now we do the high side.